In this lesson, we'll wrap up this course by learning about how the relationships between colors can affect our perception of them, as well as how color can affect our feelings and even our emotions. Okay, so this is the Lesson 9 Begin file. If you want to open this up, feel free. So now we just wrapped up learning about color temperature. And now that we kind of understand color harmonies and color temperature, we need to talk a little bit about the relationship of one color to the other. Now, color is an absolute thing, but our perception of color is relative to the colors around it. And a really good example of that is right up here in this document on the kind of the top row up here. If we come in and look at this, let's for just a moment compare this first box with the red triangle in it to the box next to it. In looking at those two, it is almost obvious to me that this triangle in the black box is larger than the triangle in the white box. But indeed, that's not the case. They are identical in size. In fact, if I were to just drag that over and drop it, you can see here, it's exactly the same size. The only thing different is the color behind the red triangle. That black color behind it has a relationship such that it makes that triangle feel larger. The white square behind the red triangle over here has the opposite effect. So you can see how that relationship is affecting the way we perceive that color and even that object. Now, if we look over here at sort of this orange box and the same red triangle in it, again, we get a very different appearance here. You can see here that the orange background against that red triangle is almost muting the red triangle, and it doesn't seem near as bright. It doesn't seem near as vibrant. Now, the box next to it here has almost the exact opposite effect. These two colors are almost, well, there's just a lot of tension almost between these two colors. Now, it's probably because this is pretty close to a complement of that red. It's actually more of a clash. It's about one step to the side of the complement. But again, you can see just by looking at these four boxes on this top row, all of them have the exact same red triangle in them, but each one of those instances of the triangle looks a little bit different. Now, down below I have two more boxes, and these have a purple triangle in them. Now, the relationship between the colors behind this particular triangle and the one next to it are such that it almost appears that these two purple colors right here of the two triangles are different purples. That's because of the relationship between the colors behind them and the triangles themselves. It's all in the way we perceive those colors. So there's a definite relationship between the colors and that we perceive and the colors that surround those. So now if we were to come down here, you're going to see some just type examples here. And these first two examples are really just kind of an example of how we can actually create problems in terms of contrast based on the colors we select. If we were designing a website or something like that and we were wanting to put text on that website, then these two first options aren't going to be really good options. They're going to be really difficult to read. And that's just simply because of the hues that were selected are so close in contrast. So contrast is another important factor when you're choosing colors to use on a project that you might be working on. This last example right here is sort of, there's a lot going on here. You can just, it almost hurts your eyes even to look at this last example that says vibrate. That's because what's going on here is referred to as simultaneous contrast. You've got these two hues and our eyes don't understand which one is supposed to be more dominant, and they're both very, very intense, very pure hues. So the effect is the two colors next to one another almost appear to vibrate in front of us. As a matter of fact, if you look at the edges of that long enough, you'll start to see some strange things happening around the edges of those letter forms. You'll probably start to see almost what looks like a very, very thin drop shadow or shadow underneath those letters. That's not really there, but because of the interaction of those two colors and the way we perceive them, we're starting to see things that really just aren't there. So be really aware of the relationships of the colors you use to the colors around those and how we perceive those. Now, it would be an injustice to you if we didn't talk a little bit about the way that colors make us feel, because there's a lot of study that's been put into the psychology behind color, and I want to show you just a few examples of that here to wrap things up. So I'm going to jump over into Photoshop. And this particular photo is actually one we used earlier in this course. But now there is a definite reason why the photographer that shot this photo decided to have this gentleman wear a red shirt. Obviously, there's a very intense emotion on his face, and hot colors, like red, for example, often communicate strength and or an aggressive type of mood. So hot colors can be very strong, they can be very aggressive. Now, in addition to that, probably the most powerful color you can opt to use is going to be red. It's going to create excitement. It's going to attract interest. Red's very versatile, but it's a very powerful color. Red can even be used in a romantic sense. Various tints of red or pink can be used to suggest romance in your projects. Now, pink is going to be a little bit like red in that it's going to arouse interest or excitement in the people that view it. It's only going to have that effect, though, in a bit of a softer way. So now, at this point, let me just jump over here to this next image here. Now, this is a completely different image, and there's really a couple of different things I want to point out to you about this image. The first thing is the dominant warm colors in this image. This field of flowers around this young woman, very warm colors. Now, warm colors can be very comforting, very spontaneous, even welcoming colors. Now, looking at this image, you can definitely feel that sense of comfort and that just welcoming sense. But this photo is also interesting because there are some cooler hues up here in the sky. Now, images that use cool or even cold colors can be very calming and very refreshing, even soothing to the people that are viewing those images. So this particular image is kind of a perfect storm of refreshing, smoothing, comforting, and spontaneous, and even welcoming feelings kind of coming at you. So this is a very pleasant image. Now, if we were to jump over here and look at this image right here, this image uses very light hues for the most part. Most of these colors in this image are very light in value, of course, with the exception of the pants the gentleman is wearing and some of the shadows underneath the surfboard. But very light hues can open up an image, or even a room if you are painting a room colors. That's why typically very light colors are used. They can open up our surroundings, they can suggest airiness, rest, and even relaxation. Now, to contrast that, if we jump back to that very first image we just looked at, darker hues will close up space and tend to imply a more serious tone. So just something to think about in terms of whether you're using darker hues or lighter hues in a composition. The last image I have here for you is this one right here, and obviously this is a very bright, colorful image. Now, very bright hues can be obviously very vivid, and they can really attract attention. They can be exhilarating and cheerful to look at. So if you had this piece of artwork hanging on your wall in your home, this is a very pleasant image, very happy image, and it would probably incite those type of feelings in the people that viewed that painting. All right, so great. With that said, that's going to bring us to the conclusion of this course. Hopefully you've enjoyed the information I've shared with you, and you've gotten a lot out of it. Thanks for joining me.